Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary with the Get Some podcast. And my guest this week is...
This motherfucker Gary.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen with the Get Some podcast. We'll start off with my schedule. This weekend, I'm in Irvine, California at the Irvine Improv. First time ever for a weekend. I think I've been there for like a guest spot, but it's my first time at the Irvine Improv. So that's the 26th to the 28th, and then we'll get into February 2nd through the 4th. I'm in Tampa, Florida at the Funny Bone. Used to be the Improv, now it's the Funny Bone. February 8th through the 10th, I'm in Charlotte at the Comedy Zone. February 14th, I'm in Arlington, Texas at the Improv Valentine's Day. I think we're going to add on the 15th because the first show sold out. The second one's halfway sold. So my guess is we'll add a show in Arlington on the 15th. And then February 16th through the 18th, I'm in Orlando, Florida at the Improv. And then for 2 weeks, I'm in Baltimore, Merlin, as the locals call it. So that's going to be February 22nd through the 25th and February 29th through March 3rd. And if you caught that, yes, it's leap year. So shouts out to everybody in Cincinnati. This past weekend, we did 8 shows, sold out 7 of 8. Just a great weekend. Shouts out to the guys that own this new clothing store in Cincinnati, Motion. Came through. We're going to post a video this week. I came through and did some shopping. They hooked me up. I did pay for items, but they did hook me up with some items. So it's a bunch of young dudes, too. Got a lot of things on, I don't know how you say it, consignment? I don't know. They just got all the new shit. I'll tell you what, as crazy as Kanye West is, he can make some shoes because Yeezys are comfortable. I bought 2 pairs at Motion. I tried on other shoes, but I was like, man, these are comfortable. So, always good to come back to Cincinnati, man. Shout out to Joseph Asai from the Bengals coming through. So, it was funny, too, because when I flew from Houston to Cincinnati last Wednesday, Jamar Chase was on my flight. So, he was in row 1. I was in row 4. So, I was already on the plane. I sat down, and when he got on, I go, oh, Jamar Chase. But I give people their space. I ain't gonna, oh my God. So anyways, we land and so he's 3 rows in front of me. And I guess there was some kind of accident at the airport. So we got redirected and we had to get on a shuttle to take us over to baggage claim. So we get on the shuttle and now he's sitting about 3 rows in front of me on the shuttle. And when I'm getting off the shuttle, Jamar's already inside the building, and all I heard was, oh, shit, Jamar Chase, who they, baby? Real loud. And I went, ain't no way he wanted to hear that. So now when I go through the door, I see the guy that yelled it. He's bingled out. Like, what are the chances a guy wears all this bingle gear with his woman, either wife or girlfriend? She's bingled out. And you see Jamar Chase walk through the doors to go to baggage claim. And I heard him say, he goes, man, how cool was that? And he looked at his girl or his wife. He goes, I don't think you want to be bothered. It's like, yeah, you think? We was on I don't know, I think we landed at 4 o'clock. I was like, you think he gets on a flight and the first thing he wants to do is get his name yelled out in a hooday when they're not even playing right now? I was just like, the funniest was the guy came to an epiphany after you already yelled it. Man, that was cool. What are the chances? I don't think you want to be bothered. Yeah, to the guy, and I don't know if you're going to see this podcast, but he doesn't. Nobody does. Nobody wants their name just screamed out when you're just trying to get to baggage claim and get home. The proper approach is, hey, Jamar, big fan. Ain't got to yell at her. Just wave. Just give him a smile, a nod. All right, Jamar, good luck next season. That's all you got to do. That goes for comedians, singers, actors, athletes of any sort. We don't like it when you scream our name out. Nobody does. We like it, be subtle. Hey, how's it going, man? All right, cool. And we like that. But other than that, we don't like it when you yell our name out. So that was kind of funny. So here is a couple things I want to unpack here. It's been 3 weeks since the Katt interview, and there's still remnants, and there's still like debris from it. I was watching a YouTube video where somebody must have bootlegged or they snuck Dave Chappelle and DeRay and Dion Cole were on stage together. And I'm guessing it was DeRay's Monday night. DeRay does Monday nights at Improv. He's been that Monday nights at the Improv has been going on for probably 25 years. And DeRay's probably been the regular host there the last 15 at least, I bet, years. And so here's the thing about DeRay. And I love DeRay to death. But don't go to the Improv on Monday if you're a decent name comedian and think you're just going to sit in the audience. DeRay has a way of sneaking you up on that stage, and then you're stuck. And then the crowd gives you a big smile, and then you got to tell some jokes. Did it to me a couple times on Monday nights. So it was interesting. Like Dave went up there, and DeRay was hosting, and Dave came up, and it was some cool little banner. And then Dave started going in on Katt. He started talking about Katt's thing and everything, and then DeRay was disagreeing with Dave. And if you haven't seen it, and I know it's bootleg, and you're not stealing material here. I don't like when people bootleg shows, but I'm glad this person had their phone out and caught this organic moment on camera. So search it. It's all over YouTube and stuff. And it's very cool to see because you have two comedians, Dave Chappelle and DeRay Davis, and they're in complete disagreement about the Katt interview. And a lot of times when you get someone at a level of a Chappelle, a lot of comedians will kind of bow down a little bit, and they won't challenge his way of thinking, especially to him in person. And it was very cool to see DeRay sticking to his guns. And I wasn't watching it to agree or disagree. I was actually enjoying the banter and interaction because it never got disrespectful. It never got like, how dare you say that? Dave gave his point of view and DeRay gave his point of view. And as I watch it, I'm sitting there going, okay, I see where Dave's coming from and I see where DeRay's coming from. And there were certain points I agree with Dave and DeRay, but I think DeRay said it best. When Chappelle was like, Katt was ethering brothers and, he didn't talk about any of the white boys. Well, there's some validity to that. When Dave was like, he never like ethered any white guys or anything like that. He just talked about black men, basically. My name did come up, but he didn't ether me, so to speak. And I think Dave was like, you would never say anything that cost somebody money. And I said on my podcast a couple weeks ago, I was like, nobody lost money because of that. And that's where I would disagree with Dave on it, because I feel like everybody benefited. Whether for or against, your name was mentioned in the biggest podcast comedy interview in YouTube's history. And that's a good thing, because I don't think it cost anybody work. I don't think Cedric's selling less tickets. Steve's selling less. Well, Steve doesn't understand it anymore. It didn't cost Steve a TV job. Ricky, it didn't cost him anything. It actually gave Ricky content to talk about on his radio station. And if anybody's got a podcast, you should benefit by talking about it, because now you're in the algorithms. Like I said, I'm like, everybody benefits. So I disagree with Dave that he cost people money. He actually made everybody money, is what Katt did. And DeRay said it best. I think DeRay, the biggest thing he said that I was like, Dave was like, I had a special come out on New Year's Eve. And that's the one thing I noticed most of was nobody was talking about Chappelle's special, because Katt's interview came out a few days after and it ethered the internet. And so for Dave to have a special come out, he didn't get the reaction he's used to getting. And DeRay said, look, Dave, you had an album. Katt had a mixtape, Unexpected. And I go, oh my God. That was the perfect analogy for Dave's special and Club Shay Shay's podcast. And Dave had to pause. If you watch it, Dave pauses And Dave doesn't pause a lot. He's very much on Katt's level as far as intellect. And I think deep down, it made so much damn sense. Dave almost had to redirect his train of thought. You could see him almost like, wow, that makes sense. And I watched it 3-4 times. And I just enjoyed the back and forth. DeRay didn't back down. He stuck to his guns. And Dave was trying to make sense what he was talking about. He said, Dave said, hurt people hurt people. He goes, but I'm a hurt person, and I've never hurt anybody. And then he also mentioned how he had the special come out. And I was like, oh, maybe Dave didn't like it. And I'm just being devil's advocate here. Maybe Dave didn't like it because he didn't get the reaction he normally gets from a special, and he didn't get the traction he normally gets. In the end, Dave's going to be fine, but it happens. These type of things happen, and you don't know when it's going to happen. Dave Chappelle to drop a special and nobody's talking about it tells you the power that Katt Williams has and that interview had. Listen, I had a reality show back in 2016. Busting my ass, pitch meeting after pitch meeting. Got told no a bunch. We finally got a yes at BET. I think we got a good time slot. And little did I know, my reality show on BET aired at the exact same time ATL Season 1 was airing. I got ethered. My reality show, they had us doing like live tweets, live Instagram story. And we was doing everything to pump it. And I'm going, man, we're not getting a lot of traction to be the first like reality show with a white lead on BET. We're not getting a lot. And then I would just see, you could see things trending on Twitter. I would see ATL, 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 ATL. What do you want to do? You drive yourself crazy trying to figure out why. It was a great show. I can't hate on ATL. I was just like, happens. Every week, my show would air directly against ATL. And there's nothing you could do about it. I was just like, well, so I had to see what this ATL was about. And I was like, I didn't want to like it, but it was good. It, in essence, ethered my show as far as ratings. We did okay in ratings, but we didn't get ATL ratings, and we didn't get the industry push behind my show that ATL got. So it just happens. And just like this, it happens. Chappelle had a special come out, and Katt's interview came out, and that just kind of took over Chappelle's special. He didn't get the normal push or reaction you get. Normally, you would trend on social media when Chappelle has a show come out. But it didn't happen. And then it was interesting. So if you get a chance, watch Dave Chappelle versus DeRay Davis. That is the perfect analogy of mixtape versus an album. And it's just good back and forth, and neither of them really back down. And like when Chappelle said, I'm hurt. I'm a hurt person. I've never hurt people. And I think it's different personalities. It's not about right or wrong. Anybody that's been around Dave and been around Katt, and I've been around both for years, Dave's always pleasant. Dave's always, makes you feel like he's about to do something for you in your career. He's like, last time I saw Dave a few years ago when I did his Yellow Springs show in Ohio, he said, man, take my number down, Gary, and anything I could do to help further your career or anything you need, just let me know. And I'm not the type to go begging for things like that. And if I'm going to call a favor or an ask, I got to be 100% positive this is the ask. Because once you ask once, you can't go ask for another thing like twice. So I've never asked Dave for nothing. So that's just who Dave is, though. That's not who Katt is. Katt's a type, you don't know what you're getting. One day he's great, and the next day you just don't know. He might be in a bad mood. From what I hear, and I haven't seen, I heard if one thing goes wrong with Katt during the day, it messes up the whole day. And it's almost like he can't get out of a funk. That's what I've heard from people. Well, I haven't seen it. I mean, I've seen Katt been very welcoming and awesome, but I've seen him also snap on people. I mean, I've told the Coco Brown story before. He was valid to snap on her, though. She went long on a show. and Katt was headlining, and that's the worst, to go up in front of a tired crowd, and that was a long time ago. So I saw that happen. So I've never seen Dave snap on anybody, whether they went long or not. I've never seen it. And Katt just isn't going to hold his tongue. And I think when Dave was like, he didn't ether any of the white boys, but Katt didn't come up in that. And that when he was coming up, he was doing all the quote-unquote black rooms, the urban rooms. He was doing the Improv on Mondays and Comedy Store on Tuesdays and Laugh Factory on Sundays. And he had his own room down at the casino. I remember Katt. I don't know what night it was, but I went down there and performed a few times. Katt had his own night. I hear. Okay, I'll give you 2 stories about Katt and Dave. 2 different stories. So back in, it's probably 2000. Before Katt had got on Friday, nobody knew who Katt was really back then, and it's just the time when we were all coming up. So I was hosting the same Monday night that Dave and DeRay did. For a while that they were rotating hosts. I remember at one point, Speedy, if you know Jamie Foxx, Speedy's one of Jamie's good friends, and then it went to Corey Zooman Miller, and then it went to DeRay. So at one point they were rotating hosts back in like 2000. And I got asked to host it for a month. So 4 or 5 weeks I hosted it. So the first 3 weeks that I hosted it, I realized every time the show would start, one, it was an industry room. So a lot of people, it's kind of a bougie room. It can be. And people were coming in late. And I always felt like the first 1 or 2 comics, they were up against it. Because I was like, man, this crowd comes in late. They're kind of going up as people were coming in. And then as the later it got, the better it got. And I noticed that the first 3 or 4 weeks. So I go on stage. Katt's going first on this night. And I go up there. I said, hey, so this is going to be like the Super Bowl. It was the year that the Rams and Titans were in the Super Bowl. And I hosted the day after the Super Bowl, that Super Bowl. And I said, hey, this show's kind of like the Super Bowl. It might start slow, but as it keeps going, it gets better and better. And I can see how, looking back on it, that can be taken out of context. Like the first couple comics ain't that great. So I bring Katt up first. After I just said this, the show's going to start out slow. I just said this on stage. Katt goes up, and he kills the room. And the first thing he said was, did this motherfucker just say the show's going to start slow? Terrible Katt impersonation. And then he gets done. And he did that joke that Cedric and him are saying it wasn't stolen, it was stolen. That Biggie joke, brings the house down, and then he says, good night, y'all. And then right before he says good night, he grabs the mic and he goes, how's that for the Super Bowl? So I go up, and I went, okay, he took that completely out of context, and I explained myself to the audience, tell a couple jokes. I get off, pull Katt aside, tell him I didn't mean no disrespect by that. It was just the last 3 weeks, the first couple of comics went up slow, and I basically just said, my bad. I didn't mean to bring you up like that. That was wrong on my part, and it was squashed. But even back then, Katt had a chip. Like, man, you ain't gonna. And I can see it. I'd be like, if somebody did that to me, I'd be like, all right. Now I would just go up and rip and then get off. Katt's different. Katt went up and ripped and goes, how's that for the Super Bowl? But clear out of context. And I remember there was another night on this Monday night at the Improv. Dave went up, and Dave went up right before me, and Dave was notorious for going long. And he went like, I don't know, 30 minutes, and then I went up after him. By the time I went on stage, there was no energy left. There was a room that holds like 200 people. There was 50 people left. And I still went up and did my 50. And this one guy just goes, boo. Now, I didn't get booed. It was one guy on the side went, boo. And him and his buddy were there every week. And I kind of went in on him. But when you're going in on somebody and nobody's in the room and the room's flat, you don't know if you're getting them or not. So the next week I go up, and same night, I go up earlier in the night, and I see those same 2 dudes. And I went all the way in on the one dude. And him and his buddy were laughing and stuff. And they actually was cool. Afterwards, they was cool. I killed that night. I see him. Everybody used to hang out at the bar afterwards at the Improv on Mondays. I see him at the bar. He came up and he came up like dapping me, like, "Yo, you got me, man. Last week," I go, it was just flat. It was, he basically was like, "You came back," and I'm glad that guy took it like that. Like, it was just all in fun. So it was cool. It was cool interaction, but it's just that different personalities, different things. I know that story didn't have a lot to do with Dave, but it's just, I don't know. I see both sides of it, but it's interesting. Watch the Chappelle DeRay thing. And here's the thing, too, since we're talking about stealing and things like that. I did not a bit. I did something on my podcast last week where I said Shaq, when I did Shaq's podcast, his house was so big, I got lost in it. And I said, the only two houses I've ever been, I couldn't find my way out of a room, was Shaq's house and then Quincy Jones' house I got lost in a long time ago. And just for the record, I see people saying, "What were you doing at Quincy's house? What was that?" Because there's the joke I've been telling and the story I told on here about the Hollywood exec that tested me earlier in my career. It was not Quincy Jones, so we can end that speculation right there. Me and Quincy had a TV deal together, and I would always go over his house to pitch my TV show with my manager, and we had a writer attached, and we go over there, and that's Quincy ain't going to meet you at an office. You go to Quincy's house and you write the show out. That's what we did. And then he moved. Quincy had a house. He built another house right next door to his old house, and I was like, that was the biggest house I've ever been in at that time of my life, and I got lost in it. So then everybody's like, I see, not everybody, but I see people saying, "Hey man, Katt had a joke where he got lost in Martin Lawrence's house," and then they're like, "Are you stealing that?" I go, "No, I don't have a joke about getting lost in anybody's house. It was a story that happened. And just because somebody tells a joke, a la Katt got lost in Martin Lawrence's house, it doesn't mean somebody else can't get lost in somebody else's house. And we're not supposed to talk about it." So these people, that's why I don't, assume people steal a joke necessarily. I don't know about the Katt and Cedric thing. I don't know. I was there back in the day, but I'm just saying, just because somebody says a joke doesn't mean that experience can't happen to somebody else. When I went on Shaq's podcast last week, and okay, before I say that, since we're getting on the joke stealing and stuff like that, here's a perfect example of minds thinking alike. I see Stephen A. Smith get on his podcast and say Katt Williams is a lot like Donald Trump as far as the passionate fan base that follows him. Not that they're the same. Trump has Trumpers, and Trumpers are loyal to a fault. You can't tell them nothing. Donald Trump can't do nothing wrong. My dad was a Trumper, is a Trumper. My dad's an asshole, but he's a Trumper. And when we was cool, I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but when we was cool, every time he picked me up or we'd talk, he'd have to bring up a Donald Trump story. And I'd be like, dude. And I knew my dad, you couldn't tell him nothing. When Donald Trump got caught saying, what is it? Hand in the pussy? It was something about pussy. They caught him in the dressing room. He was still mic'd, and he was talking about touching a girl's private part and everything. And I told my dad, I go, "What do you think?" He goes, I liked it. And I was like, wait a minute. You know damn good well Barack Obama would have said that. You would have been in his ass and been mad. But because Donald Trump said it, I said, that's when I knew. I said, oh, he's so gone. Hold on. Trump. Grab her by the pussy. That's what he said. Grab her. Yeah. Grab her by the yeah. He got caught on tape saying that. So I knew at that point, I said, oh, this dude can't do nothing wrong in my dad's eyes, Donald Trump. Similar to, and I said this to somebody, and then Stephen A. Smith said on his podcast, and this goes to show you people think alike. No, I don't think anybody told Stephen A. Smith that I said this, but I've said it on stage, and I've said it amongst friends, that I said Katt Williams is like Donald Trump to the hood. I go, Katt's got his fan base on lock to a point where you can't tell them anything. Like what Katt says is the truth and goes, and like he's exposing people for who they are. He doesn't play by the game, just like Donald Trump doesn't play by the political game that most people play. And I was like, I thought it was the perfect comparison. And I get more in depth to it on stage sometimes. I haven't flushed it out where I'm comfortable putting it out there on film yet, but I'm like, it's coming. But it's similar. Completely different fan bases, completely different ideologies, but the way, if you read the comments, the people that support Katt and the way people support Trump, it's very, very similar in the passion and the blindness. Like, it doesn't matter. If Katt says the sky's red, people that love Katt will be like, it does have a red tint to it. If Donald Trump says, I saw a green cow, you'd see people going, I've seen a green cow. That makes sense. Cows eat grass. They could be green. I'm telling you, I've seen it. So when I saw Stephen A. Smith do that, I go, oh, I was thinking the same thing. Now, now that I've said that, if I try to keep doing that on stage, now I have to specify, I saw Stephen A. Smith say this, and I was thinking the same thing, even though I've been saying it the last 2-3 weeks on stage. Not every night. It'll pop in my head and I'll bring it up. But somebody could be like, oh, you stole that from Stephen A. Smith. No. We just, for this, our brain wavelengths was very similar. It happens, man. And, okay, so now I was on Shaq's podcast, and I was telling a story about how Monique took my Richard Pryor story on Oprah. And not everyone, but I heard people saying, Cap, that story didn't happen. It's not true. Show the picture. Well, I'm going to tell the story for those of you that didn't hear it on Shaq's podcast, and then we're going to show the picture. Just so you know, there's no cap. I got no reason to lie. I got no reason to add any extra sauce to the story. But here's the story. When I first got to L.A. on Tuesday nights, Fat Tuesday, you wouldn't know who you see. That's where I met Shaq. And you never knew who you were going to see in the audience. And one night, Richard Pryor was in the audience. And we got wind he was coming. Everybody said, Richard's coming tonight. If you ever been to the Comedy Store on Sunset, the main room, they got these big booths. And you never knew who would be in those booths. In the late 90s, you'd see Denzel, you'd see Shaq, you'd see Kobe, you'd see Bernie Mac. You never know who you'd see in these booths. Behind the scenes people, you just never knew. So this night they said, Richard's coming. I just happen to be going up that night. So I'm excited. So automatically I'm nervous. Because to me, it'd be like me playing ball and Jordan walking in the gym. You going to play extra hard when Michael Jordan's watching or LeBron James is watching. So that was the equivalent for us 5-6 comics that went up that night. And I was in a perfect time slot. I was right in the middle. I wasn't first. I wasn't last. I was second or third. I was in the primo spot on a show like that. So I go up. I get done. I'm backstage. One of the people that with Richard, I don't want to say his assistant or any, I don't know. This guy comes up and goes, hey, Mr. Pryor would like to meet you. And I go, oh, snap. So I go over, and they told everybody before he got there, no pictures, leave him alone. He doesn't, he wants to watch stand-up. So I go sit down. People move. Like, I sit down in his booth with them. And I guess who's the guy that invented Good Times? Hold on. Good Times and the Jeffersons. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Norman Lear. So Norman Lear was there with Richard that night. I got a picture with him. I don't know. No, I'm not Norman Lear. No. That's not who was with him. Was it Norman Lear? I don't think it was. No. Maybe it was. Hold on. The guy did Good News too. Hold on. Good News, the guy Tory sitcom. Good News sitcom. Let me see. Okay. I'll tell you who was with him that night. I gotta do some digging, but I'm gonna find. created. Good news. I got one the overview. Hold on. I'm going to figure this out. Oh, my gosh. It was only on one season on UPN. Ed Weinberg. That's okay. That's who was with him. Ed Weinberg. I said Norman Lear. Ed Weinberg was with him. Ed Weinberg, he's known for Mary Tyler Moore Show, Taxi, but that's who was with Richard Pryor that night, Ed Weinberg. So Ed Weinberg was in the booth. Richard Pryor was there. So I sit down next to Richard, and he's talking real light. He's not loud. And he got my ear, and he was like, "You're funny. You're funny." And he was like, "Don't ever change." And he's talking real soft. I said, "All right." And then he goes, and then he didn't ask, but somebody with him asked. He goes, "Can it's weird." They was like, "Can Mr. Pryor get a pick?" And I was like, "Duh." So I was like, "Can I get a pick?" So they was like, "Yeah." So this is before iPhones. I always carried a camera in my car because I was new to L.A., and I was always amazed who I was running into. Magic Johnson. People, you just ran into the most random people at the Comedy Store. So I run to my car. I parked at Pink Dot. On Shaq's podcast, I said Pink's. That's the hot dog place. Pink Dot was like a 7-Eleven a block away from the Comedy Store. And you could park behind there, but you just had to buy something. You had to show you had to purchase a receipt. So I'd always go on Tuesday nights. I'd park my truck at Pink Dot, get a sub sandwich, put it in the back of my car. That was dinner, and I didn't have to pay $20 to park or valet. I didn't have it like that. So that was my dinner and parking. So I always go to Pink Dot, get my sub sandwich, and I could keep my car parked there for a couple hours. So I ran down to my car. I grab my camera. I bring it back. Richard got his guy to take a picture, and I got a picture of my camera. And when I came back with my camera, I sat back down, and one of the guys tried to grab me. One of the security guys was like, "Hey, we said no pictures." And I was like, no, he wants a picture of me. And then his people was like, "Nah, he's good. So I got the picture, right? I got a picture with Ed Weinberg that night, and I got a picture of Richard Pryor. I'm not sure where the picture of Ed Weinberg is, but I still have the picture of Richard Pryor. And I'm going to show it after this story so you guys know it's valid. I get done, and that was my story. And I was like, oh, man, if I ever get on Oprah Winfrey, I'm going to tell this story. This is my story, that Richard Pryor said that I'm valid, that I'm funny, and he told me don't change. So I'm never going to change my personality, my things on things. Because, yeah, I tell a lot of black-white jokes. But Richard Pryor said it's funny. So a couple years later, 3-4 years later, I'm watching Oprah Winfrey. Monique's on there. And Oprah, I'm watching on TV. And Oprah goes, "When did you know? When did you know you had it? When did you know this is what you're supposed to be doing? This is your calling." And Monique was like, "Oprah, I was on stage one night, and Richard Pryor was in the audience. And when the show was over, he said, 'I want to meet you.' And he pulled me aside, and he got my ear, and he said, 'Don't change. Don't ever change.'" And I'm sitting there going, what the They just took my Oprah story, word for word. And as I'm watching it, I'm sitting there going, no. As soon as Oprah asked that question and Monique said Richard Pryor was in the audience, it was like I had a premonition. It was like I saw it coming. I go, there's no way. There's no way this is happening. And then it just kept getting worse because it was almost verbatim my story. I was on stage. Richard was in the audience. Richard asked to meet me after the show. Richard whispered in my ear, "Don't change. Don't ever change." And I went, that was the exact story on the show that I always told myself I was going to tell that story on. I held it. I held that story. Not like I had a lot of interview requests, but every week I'm on the road on radio shows, on local TV shows, and they always ask those questions. They ask those questions. Did you always know you were funny? When did you know? Never told that story. Held it. And Monique told that story on Oprah. The show. I would have never told that story on another talk show. I was waiting to get on Oprah Winfrey. I always thought I would be on Oprah. And then Never happened. I swear to God, if that TV show with me and Quincy Jones would have went through, I would have been on Oprah. But I never ended up getting on Oprah, and I never told the story. And here we are 20 years later, and I'm telling it on a podcast. Shaq's podcast, and now my podcast. Here's the picture. Told you. I told you that's a true story. How dare you guys think I'm lying and making that up? Oh, my God. I just thought it was crazy. It was the exact same show, though. I wasn't trying to tell it on Ricky Lake, Jenny Jones, Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer was actually valid at that time. It was before he went with the craziness. But, yeah, rest in peace, Jerry Springer. But, man, of all the shows. So, yeah, happens, man. So, anyways, NFL playoffs. I actually had a good week this week on my picks. Of course, I went with all the favorites, but other than Kansas City. So, this week, definitely rooting for the Baltimore Ravens. And I know people are like, how could you do that? It's AFC North football. I just think the Chiefs, they've had a good run. I'd love to see Lamar Jackson win a title. So I am picking Baltimore versus San Francisco. Big shock. I'm going with the number 1 seeds. But I'm kind of rooting for Detroit. I don't dislike San Francisco. Shouts out to Austin Moss. Always takes care of me if I need to go to a game or anything. Took great care of me when the Bengals played the 49ers this year. But it's hard not to root for Detroit, boy. They're very much like Cincinnati. A just beat up, loyal fan base. And they finally got the right coach, the right team together. And it's hard not to root for them. And they're having a run like the Bengals did 2 years ago. They just keep winning tight games, and it's hard not to root for them. But if you're going to ask me to bet money, yeah, Baltimore and San Francisco. But like I said, it's hard not to root for the daggone Detroit Lions. It'll be one of them games I'm probably rooting for who's ever behind when it's all said and done. Yeah. Just seeing all those videos of that one guy was a season ticket holder for 66 years, and he finally saw a playoff win like that and a playoff run. It's like I told the story about me and my brother before the season started with the Bengals. It's just, man, football's the only sport that does that it just creates so much emotion. You can see tears. You saw the Bills fan crying after they lost. And, oh, my God, talking about the Bills. Wide right again? Oh, Jesus Christ. It's just – and I always like to go against the grain. Like, I root for black tennis players. I root for white sprinters. I root for white running backs, black quarterbacks. I root for white wide receivers. I root for black golfers, black hockey players, white boxers. It's like I root for those guys that we say they don't dominate the sport, so to speak. If I see a black swimmer, a black diver, I'm rooting for them. Same with not just that, but like an Asian guy that's a sprinter, I'd root for him. It's just you go against what traditional domination is in certain sports, and you just kind of, I don't know, I just always root for the underdogs. It's like when the World Cup comes and you're supposed to root for the United States because you're American, but then you see like the Nigerian team or some of these other quote-unquote third world countries, and you're kind of like, the United States guys are fine. They're going home to, they're not struggling when they get home. These guys are getting a goat when they get back. They're going back to huts. And I'm going, I kind of want them to win a little bit. They're not going back to much. I think this World Cup and the money and goats that could come with it, I don't know. It's hard not to root for those poverty-stricken countries when it comes to World Cup. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey's a white running back. It's hard not to root for him. And what I'm saying with Baltimore, they got all black quarterbacks, the starter, the backup, the third string, and an all black coaching staff. all black quarterback coaching staff. Shouts out to T. Martin, Tennessee national title. T's a great guy. He's a quarterback's coach. So just, it's hard not to root for those guys, man. And who doesn't like Lamar Jackson? If you don't like Lamar Jackson, you just don't like people. It's you. He always says the right things. Great dude. I don't think you saw. Have you seen the video of him walking in with the kid that just wanted to meet him? And Lamar took time out of his day to go see him.
What's up, Landon?
What's up?
I got someone here to see you.
Wow.
How you doing, man? How you doing? How you doing?
Let me say, there's 2 videos out there you got to search. The Lamar Jackson one and have you seen the Cam Newton one where he comes in and meets the kid that he had heart surgery or one of those? Man, it gives you a different side of sport that everyone should appreciate. So you see Lamar and it's the little things when you see people do things. When Lamar walks in, he immediately greets the family. He's shaking them, eye contact, boom, boom, nice meeting you. And the kid's just hugging him, similar to the kid that had heart surgery that hugged Cam Newton. I mean, it's hard not to root for guys like that. It's hard, So, yeah, I'm definitely rooting for Baltimore. And not to say not to say Patrick Mahomes wouldn't do something like that or Travis Kelce wouldn't do something like that. It's just when you see it, you're like, hard not to root for that guy. So anyways, look, before I close, I have no sponsorships on this podcast. So what I'm about to show you, I'm not getting paid for this or anything. So I follow this guy, Gary Brecka, on social media, and I got wind of him because of Dana White. But I went and ordered this hydrogen-infused water bottle because Gary Brecka's like, that's what you need. So I got this bottle. Look, I press this button, and it turns a cool blue, and you can see the bubbles. Look at that. That's hydrogen going in the water. And I'm not just saying that. Since I started drinking this stuff, I feel better. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not getting no sponsorship from this or nothing. But I just want to say thanks, Gary Brecka. Thanks, Dana White. Look at that. And when the blue light goes off, I can drink the water, and there's a bunch of hydrogen in it. And hydrogen's good for your cells. I think so. I'm just going to hold it up till it goes off. Let me look. If I could type one thing. Hi, if I could spell, it'd be great. I got this from Hydro Pures. That's where I ordered this bottle from. This from Hydro Pures. I'm not getting paid for this at all. Not getting a sponsorship. Not trying to get nothing for free. I will take something for free, but I'm not trying to get nothing for free. And I ordered it, and I have to say it works. And what's the point of hydrogen water bottles? I don't know. It just makes you feel better. It's healthy. It's similar where I work out now, and people are like, what's your goals? I go to survive, just to live. That's the only reason I work out, because I don't want to die. And I heard working out is good for not. If they said cheeseburger and fries keeps you from dying, I've eaten cheeseburger and fries. So now the blue light went off, and my water's got all kind of hydrogen in it. And all I do is take the top off like that, and boy, that's good. What does it say? Hold on, before we get off, let me just see. What is the hydrogen water? Hydrogen water. Hydrogen water benefits. It reported to improve various diseases and tissue injuries through antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. Pulmonary inflammation, asthma, cerebral stroke, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. So basically, it's trying to keep you alive. Is it good for your kidneys? It is. Yes, it is. Is it good for the body? Can alleviate the side effects of conventional anti-cancer therapies such as chemotherapy, radiotherapy, improve quality of life. So there you go. Hydro Pures. Thank you. I bought it. Didn't get nothing for free. I have no sponsorship, but I will take one. I'm not going to say no. All right. All right. That's it. Irvine, California. I'll see you this weekend. This is Gary Owen with the Get Some Podcast.
Why don't you turn that thing off a second?
Oh, you're just getting some good games.
Yeah, I know, but you don't want to see this.
Hey, what's going on, buddy? How you doing? You doing all right? What's up? You doing good? I feel your heart, man. You're going 1,000 miles per hour, man. You doing all right? Nice to see you, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Doing good?